Our last rocket launch did not end well. We had an ejection failure and the rocket came down ballistic nose first. Now, when I was first walking up to this rocket on the ground, I thought, I'm going to have to build a new rocket. But after evaluating it a little bit, turns out the damage really isn't that bad. Now, obviously, the nose cone is destroyed, but the base piece that screws into the nose cone that holds the flight computer and the ejection charge is perfectly fine. So, another 12 hours of 3D printing, and we'll have a new nose cone. And then the damage to the rocket is really just this top 1/3 section of the body tube. The bottom 2/3, including the fin portion, which is the hardest part to build, are completely fine. And the damage seems to have stopped right about here where there's a reinforcing sleeve and the parachute mounting bulkhead. Those parts seem to have stopped the damage from continuing further down the cardboard tube. And we've seen this before when the rocket comes down nose first, that the parachute seems to act a little bit like a shock absorber, and it absorbs a lot of that force when the rocket hits the ground. So really, I just need to replace the top section of the body tube and attach it to the rest of the rocket with a sleeve. Now I know that's going to add about 35 grams of weight to the rocket, but this rocket already has a launch weight of about 1,850 grams, so another 35 grams isn't really going to be much. And the good thing about that is the extra weight is going to be forward of the center of gravity, so it will help increase the stability of the rocket rather than decrease the stability of the rocket. But before we repair this, it's really important to understand what went wrong. That way we can hopefully try to make some improvements to avoid it from happening again. So, what went wrong with this launch, or specifically with the ejection? We saw the ejection charge fire because we saw the puff of smoke in the air, but the nose cone didn't come off. So why? So when a rocket is launched straight up and it reaches apogee, it's not really moving very quickly. It's lost all of its upward momentum and it's just arcing around trying to come back down. And that's when the ejection charge fires and blows off the nose cone. That's not what this rocket did. When this rocket left the launch rod, it immediately tipped about 15 degrees and flew off at an angle. Now, in the area we're at, that new flight trajectory is not any problem because there's a huge dry lake bed, but it does change the apogee. See, when the rocket is coming across apogee at that point, it's lost its upward momentum, but because it was already flying at an angle, it's still flying horizontally very quickly. And we could definitely see that. So when the ejection charge fires and it tries to push the nose cone off, it has to push it against all the force that's pushing against the nose cone at that high velocity. And clearly, it just didn't have the power to do that. So how do we solve that problem? Well, in a perfect world, we would just ensure that the rocket always goes straight up, but we really don't have control over that. I think this rocket tipped off at an angle because the motor kind of got started a little bit slowly, and so when the rocket left the launch rod, it really wasn't moving quite as fast as it should have been. So since we really can't control whether the rocket's going to go straight or off at an angle, it means we need to have a much more powerful ejection charge. Now the good thing here is we recently upgraded the design of our ejection charge, and instead of using a plastic cap, we now use a metal cap. So we can make that a lot more stronger without having to worry about the ejection charge cap exploding into pieces.
I'm almost into the mainframe. I'm in.
Hey, you don't have to hack the system to get yourself a Rotary Rocketry t-shirt. Click the link in the description to access our shop.
Hey, check this out.
Available in a wide range of colors with a variety of graphics. Get yours today.
So let's head out to the shop and work on repairing this rocket. I've removed the parachute. Now the damage comes around here on the body tube, and this is the lowest portion of the damage, so I'm just going to cut the tube off just below the damaged area. Now one thing that's really good here, with the damaged portion cut off, there's still a few inches of good tubing above the parachute mounting bulkhead, so we'll be able to easily install a sleeve here to attach the new section of tubing. So I need a 3-inch coupling, and then a piece of tubing 16 1/4 inches long to replace the section that we cut off. The coupling just needs a 1/2 inch wide piece cut out so it can fit inside the tubing. I'm using the same Loctite PL construction adhesive I used when I constructed the rocket. I'll apply a thin coat of construction adhesive to 1/2 of the coupling. And then apply a thin layer of adhesive for 1.5 inches down inside the lower portion of the rocket. Install the coupler till it meets my line that I drew 1.5 inches down. I'll clean off the excess adhesive, and then I'll let this sit for several hours for that adhesive to start hardening. Now that that adhesive is dry, I'll apply a thin layer of adhesive to the other half of the coupling, and then to the inside of the new piece of the body tube. And connect the two together. Now the two pieces of tubing may not be perfectly aligned because the cuts may not be perfectly straight. One trick I use is I take a short piece of the body tube and cut a slice down one side. Slide that down over the rocket and over the repaired area, and then put a bunch of rubber bands around that to hold it in place. That will keep the two parts perfectly aligned. Now that the adhesive is dry and I've taken off the rubber bands and the alignment sleeve, I can see that there's some gapping at the repair area. So I'll use a little bit of construction adhesive to seal that just so it looks a little nicer. I'll drill some new vent holes in the body tube and give it a nice paint job. And this rocket is ready for flight. The repair came out absolutely perfect. It's almost invisible. But before we launch this rocket, I want to do an ejection charge test. I've built 2 ejection charges. This first one is identical to the one that was in the rocket when the nose cone failed to eject and the rocket crashed. The second one has twice the amount of black powder. Now, I have mixed feelings about this one. On one hand, I'm really interested to see the ejection performance difference with this much black powder. But at the same time, I'm a little concerned because this is the most amount of black powder I've ever used in an ejection charge for this size rocket. So let's see how they perform. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Now, looking back on the video, it's not quite as obvious that there's a major difference between the 2 ejection charges, but standing there when I was doing the test, it was definitely obvious that the second one was significantly more powerful and that this rocket definitely needs that more powerful ejection charge. Well, I guess the only thing left to do before we wrap up the video is launch this rocket and see how it goes. Let's head out to the launch site. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll be back with some more launches of our Eliminator rockets real soon. We've got a lot of other stuff planned. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and be sure to hit that like button before you leave. We really appreciate it. Check out the full line of Rotary Rocketry t-shirts and hoodies. There's a link to our shop down in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.